You reach a certain age where life no longer waits for you to figure things out. In your 20s, you could pretend you had all the time in the world. You could dance around with indecision, experiment with failure, make excuses, and hope for luck to arrive uninvited. But when you find yourself in your mid-30s or staring down the gates of your 50s, life starts demanding receipts. It asks you, "What have you been doing with the time I gave you?" It stops accepting your indecision as innocence. It starts charging interest on wasted potential, and if you don't take control of your direction, life will take control of your outcome. This is where definiteness of purpose becomes urgent. You cannot afford to drift. The drifter, at this point, becomes a victim of the winds. The person without a clear destination becomes a slave to every distraction, every opinion, every fear. Life was never meant to be lived in confusion. It was designed for those who have chosen a purpose and committed their mind to it with obsession. Without a clearly defined aim, even success becomes accidental, unstable, fleeting. You might stumble into money, but you'll lose it. You might find recognition, but it will fade. You might feel happy in moments, but they will pass like mist in the sun. You must now more than ever stop what you're doing and ask yourself, what is it that I want to give my life to? This question is not meant to be poetic. It is a call to war. Because without a definiteness of purpose, you become a soldier in someone else's army. You will wake up each day to serve someone else's dream, someone else's agenda, someone else's machine. Your energy will be drained not for your advancement, but for someone else's legacy. This is not living. This is existing with a leash around your potential. And the moment you choose not to answer the call, you are silently volunteering to become a spectator in your own life. When you're 35 or 50, you're no longer the student of time. You are its debtor, and purpose is the only thing that pays off the interest. You must decide now, with absolute clarity, what you are building. Are you building freedom? Are you building impact? Are you building something your children will inherit? Not just in assets, but in mindset? Or are you just existing, reacting, consuming, complaining, hoping that something will magically shift? Nothing will shift until you shift, and the shift begins with a purpose so clear, it lights your soul on fire when you wake up, a mission that haunts you if you ignore it, a goal so personal, so urgent, so meaningful that your entire body aligns with it. Your habits change, your language sharpens, your discipline rises, because when you have definiteness of purpose, you are no longer at the mercy of moods, opinions, or obstacles. You become locked in. You become magnetic. You start seeing everything as fuel. Every failure becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes strategy. Every enemy becomes motivation. That's what purpose does. It transforms chaos into clarity. And understand this, you don't need everyone to understand your purpose. You don't need to explain it to people who don't get it. You don't need validation from the crowd. The majority of people live without one. The moment you choose to have a clearly defined purpose, you separate yourself from the herd. You stop being average. You stop being predictable. You become dangerous. Because the person who knows where they're going is a force that cannot be stopped by those who don't. And now comes the second truth, the one that stings if you're still trying to live like you did in your youth. Time is no longer a luxury, it is a currency. And the way you spend it determines whether you build wealth, freedom, peace, and fulfillment, or whether you waste away into excuses and regret. In your 20s, you could afford to waste a few hours. You could binge on distractions and bounce back the next day. But when you're in your 35s and 50s, every single hour has weight. Every hour is either constructing your future or reinforcing your stagnation. You are either investing time or you are bleeding it. Time spent binge, watching, gossiping, scrolling, doubting, waiting. It's not neutral, it's debt, it's decline, it's erosion. At this stage of life, every block of time must be treated like cash, because what you don't spend building your dream will be spent building someone else's. And if you're careless with your time, life will be ruthless with its consequences. It's not about being busy. It's about being intentional. You can be busy doing nothing. You can fill your calendar and starve your purpose. But when you see time as currency, you become selective. You become ruthless with your schedule. You start cutting meetings that don't move you forward. You stop entertaining conversations that don't elevate your mindset. You say no to people who drain you, distract you, or discourage you. You protect your mornings like sacred ground. You build routines that compound, because time invested wisely creates momentum, and momentum is what separates the extraordinary from the forgotten. The tragedy is that most people don't feel the weight of time until it's almost gone. They think they'll always have another year to start, another month to change, another week to reset, but days turn into decades quietly. Life doesn't shout when it passes you by. It whispers, and one day you'll wake up and realize that your dreams didn't die, they were murdered by procrastination. Not because you weren't capable, but because you didn't treat time as the treasure it is. You traded it for convenience, for comfort, for distractions that gave you nothing in return. But if you're breathing, there's still power in your hands. This moment is currency. This hour is an asset. You can still build, you can still rise, you can still change direction, but you cannot do it casually. You must move with urgency. You must move like someone who understands that wasted time is worse than lost money, because money can be recovered. Time cannot, and don't fall into the trap of thinking it's too late. That belief is a lie told by people who gave up on themselves. You're not too late. You're just not focused. You're not too old. You're just undisciplined. You're not out of options. You're out of excuses. The clock is ticking whether you move or not. But when you align with purpose and treat time like the currency it is, you start compounding results at a rate you never imagined. 1 year of focus can outperform 10 years of drifting. 6 months of discipline can change the trajectory of your entire life, but only if you understand that time is a tool, not a trap. It's your servant when you master it. It's your executioner when you waste it. You choose which. And now, as you look at your current age, your current habits, your current routine, you must ask yourself, is the way you are living reflecting a person with a purpose, or a person who's passing time? Is your calendar filled with movement or progress? Are you waking up on fire, or just surviving another day hoping something will change? You must stop being casual with time. Casual behavior creates casualties. Precision creates power. Urgency creates opportunity. Obsession creates legacy. You don't need more motivation. You need an awakening. And that awakening begins when you stop treating time like something you have and start treating it like something you spend. Every hour matters now. Every day is a deposit. Every moment is a mirror showing you what you value. And if you don't take control of it, someone else will. They already are. The clock is not your enemy. It is your loudest teacher, your clearest signal, your ultimate accountability partner. And it's telling you something even now, even as you sit there reading this, even as the world moves without waiting for your permission. Excuses are comfortable. They are soft places to fall when you don't want to face the truth. They are the warm blankets people use to cover their failures. But when you are in your 30s, and certainly by the time you hit your 50s, excuses stop being explanations. They become symptoms of decay. The same stories you told yourself 10 years ago now reek of self-betrayal. I didn't have time, I didn't have support. I wasn't ready, no longer serve you, and they never did. At this stage of life, if your mind still turns to excuses before it turns to solutions, it means you have not truly decided to win. Whatever reasons you've held on to, the childhood trauma, the bad boss, the lack of connections, the economy, the missed opportunities, the people who wronged you, none of them will build your future. Every second you spend defending your excuse is a second you robbed from your own breakthrough. Life does not grant victory to the most justified. It gives it to the most determined. The longer you allow your excuses to live in your mind, the more they rot your confidence, erode your energy, and harden into identity. People start saying, "That's just who I am," when what they mean is, "That's what I've tolerated." Excuses are clever. They dress up as logic. They wear the mask of reason. But all they ever do is delay your destiny. If you are still blaming people, still waiting for circumstances to change, still explaining why this year isn't the right time, you're not in pursuit, you're in hiding, and you cannot evolve while you hide. You cannot conquer while you coddle your limitations. The world owes you nothing, and the moment you stop expecting it to, you finally begin to wake up to the truth. Everything you want is on the other side of the excuse you refuse to kill. Look in the mirror and be honest. What have you been tolerating in yourself that would never be acceptable from someone else? If your child made the excuses you make, would you be proud or would you correct them? If your friend spoke the way you speak to yourself, would you call it support or sabotage? You know deep down when you're lying to yourself. That discomfort, that tightness in your chest, that frustration at the end of the day, it's your soul telling you that you're not living up to what you know is inside you, and no excuse can silence that voice. Only action can. You must begin to burn every excuse that has followed you through the years. Burn the excuse that says you're too late. Burn the excuse that says you're too tired. Burn the excuse that says someone else has it easier. Burn the excuse that blames your past. You are not your pain. You are not your delay. You are what you decide to become now, right now. The power is not in yesterday's story. It's in today's decision. And that decision must come from the part of you that is tired of wasting breath on explanations and ready to breathe fire into execution. People confuse circumstances with fate. They confuse obstacles with outcomes. But the people who change their lives are not those with perfect conditions. They are those who reject excuses, no matter how real they seem, because excuses may be based in reality, but they never lead to progress. They may be understandable, but they are never profitable. What's profitable is ownership. What's profitable is waking up and saying, "It's my responsibility now. No one is coming to save me. No one is going to hand me clarity. No one is going to build my dream for me." That declaration alone separates you from 90% of the population. Once you remove the excuses, you start seeing what's actually holding you back, your environment. You begin to realize that your surroundings, your circle, your inputs are not passive details of your life. They are active forces shaping your identity. The people you speak to, the content you consume, the energy around you. These things are not background noise. They are programming you. They are sculpting your beliefs. They are training your standards. Your environment is either pulling you forward or dragging you down, and at your age, you can no longer pretend you don't know the difference. Too many people live with environments that reflect failure and then wonder why they cannot succeed. They keep friends who speak in limitations and expect to think in abundance. They live in clutter and expect to have clarity. They consume chaos and expect to produce peace. They surround themselves with people who normalize mediocrity and wonder why their ambition disappears. You become what you are around. You become what you tolerate. If you live in mud, don't be surprised when your dreams start to sink. Aud at your environment with the same intensity you would use to aud at your finances if you were going broke. Who are the 5 people you speak to most? What are they feeding your mind? Do they challenge you or enable you? Do they inspire action or encourage avoidance? You must learn to outgrow your surroundings when they no longer reflect the future you are building. It is not betrayal to leave comfort behind. It is loyalty to your potential. Growth demands that you build new spaces, not stay loyal to old cages. Look around your physical space. Is it organized or chaotic? Is it a temple or a trash bin? Your physical space reflects your mental space. The person who operates in precision creates precision. The person who lives in disorder invites distraction. You cannot build a kingdom in a storm of clutter. Clean up, organize, create sacred space for thought, for planning, for building. Let your environment become a mirror of the clarity and control you are claiming over your life. And then there is the digital environment, the things you scroll through, watch, and listen to. Most people consume entertainment that numbs their fire. They waste hours watching others' lives, comparing lives they don't understand, absorbing doubt, fear, confusion, negativity, and then they wonder why they feel lost. You must be relentless about your inputs. If what you consume does not feed your mind, feed your ambition, or feed your faith, it is stealing from you. Remove it, replace it, rewire your mental diet. Because no matter how strong your purpose is, if you live in an environment that fights it, you will always be at war with yourself. The same applies to habits. Your routines are a product of your environment. If your environment encourages laziness, you will drift into passivity. If it encourages precision, you will train yourself into discipline. Start by shaping small elements. Keep your space clean. Set your phone away during key hours. Begin your day in silence or reflection instead of reaction. Let your morning shape your mission. Let your home become your headquarters. And let the people around you feel the shift. Because the moment you start living with intention, everything and everyone around you must rise or fall. You don't need more talent. You don't need more time. You don't need a perfect plan. You need to stop living in places that reflect who you used to be. Build spaces that demand you level up. Create boundaries that protect your mind. Surround yourself with people who challenge your standards. This is not about being cold or arrogant. It's about being committed. You cannot allow yourself to be pulled into the noise of people who are comfortable being average. You cannot let familiarity become your coffin. You cannot let loyalty to the wrong environment become disloyalty to your vision. Most people are not held back by a lack of skill. They are held back by a toxic environment that rewards their weakness and resents their strength. And the only way to break free is to consciously and deliberately build a life that reflects where you are going, not where you've been. Move your furniture if you must. Change your city if you have to. Walk alone if that's what it takes. Because the path to transformation is never found in a space that tolerates your excuses, distracts your focus, and comforts your mediocrity. It is found in places that demand growth, demand clarity, demand accountability. And until you live in that kind of environment, your potential will remain dormant, your dreams delayed, your fire dimmed, not because you weren't ready, but because you were still living in spaces that celebrated the person you were trying to leave behind. Most people think consistency is a skill. It's not, it's a decision, and like all decisions, it must be renewed every single day. People in their 30s and 50s often look at consistency like it's some magical power a few lucky people are born with. But that's just another lie told by the lazy to excuse their lack of commitment. The truth is, consistency is earned through repetition, through pain, through sweat, through doing what needs to be done when no one's watching and no one's applauding. It is forged in silence, away from the spotlight. And those who master it own something that others cannot buy, borrow, or fake. Momentum. You do not rise because of what you do once. You rise because of what you repeat. You don't get in shape by working out hard for 1 week. You don't build wealth by saving money for 1 month. You don't change your mindset by reading 1 book. True transformation happens in the pattern, the grind, the daily sacrifice that seems invisible to everyone else. That's where greatness lies, not in events but in habits, not in goals but in the discipline behind them. If you cannot keep a promise to yourself on an ordinary day, don't expect extraordinary results in your future. Your life is a reflection of what you've been repeating, not what you say, not what you plan, not what you dream, what you do consistently. The problem is, most people worship motivation and reject discipline. They wait for a feeling, They wait for a burst of energy, but energy without consistency is wasted fuel. Discipline without motivation, however, is a machine. It doesn't ask if you feel like it. It doesn't ask if conditions are perfect. It doesn't care who's watching. It just moves. And the people who become unstoppable are not those who do the most in a short time. They are those who do the small things daily, without fail, without excuse, without applause. The boring habits, the invisible work, the non-negotiable routines, that is where power accumulates. Discipline is the secret ingredient behind every transformation. It is the voice that says, "I will show up no matter what." When you master that voice, you begin to build self-respect. You begin to trust yourself again, because deep down, everyone knows when they're lying to themselves. They know when they're breaking promises. They know when they're drifting. And every time you abandon your consistency, you chip away at your confidence. But every time you keep going, no matter how small the step, you build internal strength. And that strength begins to show up in everything you do, in your walk, in your voice, in your results. Ask yourself right now, what would happen if I stayed consistent for the next 12 months? What would my body look like? What would my income look like? What would my business or career look like? What kind of people would I attract? What kind of peace would I feel? You already know the answer. You've seen glimpses, you've had moments, but moments don't build empires, habits do, and that's the thing most people never realize. Your future is not determined by inspiration, but by instruction. Do you instruct your mind to rise early, to focus, to push past comfort, to keep promises even when it's inconvenient? That's the gatekeeper to the life you say you want. Consistency is also how you earn respect from others. People may admire talent, but they trust discipline. When others see that you show up no matter what, that you deliver no matter how you feel, that you operate with standards that don't bend to emotion, they begin to respect you. And respect compounds into influence. Influence opens doors that talent alone cannot. Because in the real world, reliability is a superpower. Everyone has ideas. Few can be trusted to execute them without being reminded, pushed, or rescued. Be the exception. Be the person who shows up. Be the person who follows through. Be the person others know will not waver. But consistency without clear values is just repetition. And that leads to the final truth. Character is your legacy. When everything is stripped away, when money fades, when youth is gone, when applause becomes silence, all that remains is your character. What you built inside when no one was watching. What you stood for when it cost you comfort. What you did when it was hard, when it was lonely, when it didn't make sense to others. That is the real scoreboard. And by the time you're 35 or 50, your character should not just be forming. It should be leading. Too many people focus on how things look. They dress up failure in luxury. They decorate weakness with charm. But charm without character is a trick. It fades quickly. People eventually see through the image. And what they see underneath either commands respect or invites ridicule. Character is the part of you that does right when no one is watching. It is the inner compass that says no to easy shortcuts, that says yes to hard truths, that holds the line even when the world moves it. And in a time when most people are seduced by instant gratification, your character becomes your greatest advantage. You don't get strong character by accident. You build it like muscle, by repetition. By pain, by testing. You earn it through failure, through loss, through sacrifice. Every time you tell the truth when lying would be easier, your character grows. Every time you choose responsibility over blame, your character sharpens. Every time you make a decision that aligns with your principles instead of your feelings, your character deepens, and over time that becomes unshakable, that becomes magnetic. People are drawn to character. Not because it's flashy, but because it's rare. Your character must lead your choices in business, in relationships, in how you manage money, in how you treat people who can do nothing for you. This world will tempt you to cut corners, to sell your soul for speed, to fake progress for applause. But what you gain in the short term, you lose in the long term if it costs you your integrity. Build slowly if you must, but build right. Build in a way that your children can be proud of. Build in a way that your name is spoken with respect when you're no longer in the room. And don't confuse niceness with character. Nice people can still be weak, dishonest, and unreliable. Character is not about pleasing everyone. It's about standing for something, living by it, and defending it. It means you don't gossip, even when it's entertaining. It means you don't cheat, even when you won't get caught. It means you honor your word, not just when it's easy, but especially when it costs you. And the world will try to bend you. People will try to pull you into comfort. Temptation will try to seduce you. But when you've built your character strong, you don't fold. You don't flinch. You don't sell your soul for temporary gain. Every crisis reveals your character. Every setback tests it. Every opportunity exposes whether you're ready for more. Some people are not being held back by lack of talent. They are being held back by a character that cannot be trusted with more. They don't follow through. They cut corners. They chase image over substance. And life does not reward the unready. Until your character matches the size of your vision, you will never fully receive what you're reaching for. You might touch it, but you won't keep it. You might enter the room, but you won't last. At this stage in life, your character should be sharper than ever. You've seen the games people play. You've learned the price of shortcuts. You know what it's like to be hurt, disappointed, misled. So now, let your strength be your foundation. Let your values be your anchor. Let your discipline be your brand. Because in a world full of pretenders, the one with real character becomes unforgettable. Not because they speak the loudest, but because they live the truest. And when you live that way long enough, people begin to notice. Doors open, trust builds, impact multiplies. And legacy begins, not when you die, but when you live with a character so solid, so clear, so consistent, that it shapes everything around you without saying a word in the end. Your 30s and 50s are not about age. They are about awakening. Excuses must die. Environments must evolve. Consistency must become your identity, and character must lead every decision. This is the season to stop drifting and start dominating. You've lived enough to know better and waited long enough to do better. Now is the time to demand more from yourself, to rise with discipline, to walk with purpose, and to live so intentionally that your presence speaks louder than your words. The life you want isn't found in delay. It's found in daily decisions backed by unshakable resolve.